Hello, economics students. Last time we left off on our video talking about opportunity cost, and I left you with the question of what do you think the largest cost of going to college is? And I want to show you what most people will miss as a cost of going to college. So one of the big concepts that we were leaving with last time was this idea of opportunity cost. And so when you think about opportunity cost, going to college is a perfect example, because when you go to college, typically what people do when they go to college is they become a full-time student. Now, some people work part-time, so you can obviously take this example and change it slightly, but let's say we have our typical student who goes to college and is just a full-time student, takes a full load of classes just as a student, going, taking tests, things like that. And I looked this up. So in a couple years ago, the cost of tuition at Texas A&M was $10,176 for tuition. Now there's other costs and things associated with it, but this is one of the biggest costs, is the cost of tuition. All right, so we'll put tuition right here. And this is what most people think is like the biggest cost of going to college, is I have to pay out tuition. I have to actually, so this person has to get money, get loans, pay that money out to the school, and that's what they have to give up. But that's not exactly what they have to give up. That's what they pay out. But what can they not do as a result of being a full-time student? Well, what this person could have done instead of going to school is they could have went to work. And they said, oh, no, I'm not going to go to college. I'm just going to go work right away. And if he would have worked at the minimum wage of $7.25 for 40 hours a week for 50 weeks out of the year, what this typical person could have made by working is $14,500. Okay? So what could this person not do as a result of paying the tuition? They couldn't go to work. Right? What is the opportunity cost for this person of going to college? It's not being able to work. So this is the concept of opportunity cost. Opportunity cost is what you can't do as a result of something that you choose to do. Right? So another simple example, we brought it up last time. If I choose to watch an economics lecture for 10 minutes, what can I not do? What's my opportunity cost as a result? It's not being able to watch something else for 10 minutes. If I choose to go to college, what's my opportunity cost of going to college? It's not being able to just stay at home and play video games. It's not being able to work at minimum wage for 40 hours a week, 50 weeks out of the year. It's not being able to make that money of $14,500. So the cost of college is not just tuition, but it's what I give up as a result of going to college. $14,500 is what I give up. It's my opportunity cost. So economics it's really a scientific study. And it's a scientific study of how decisions are made, how incentives impact people, certain outcomes that are a result of these incentives, cause and effect sequences, and the world is a really complicated place. So economists look to try and explain how that world works. And one of the ways economists do that are with models. They really try to take a complex world and make it simple, and develop kind of laws and principles that explain how this complicated world works. And so there's a couple basic assumptions that we take, that people are kind of rational decision makers, that they are influenced by incentives, things like that. And so I want to start off with the very first model that we're going to look at, using kind of an overly simplified model to look at how the world works. So I'm going to move this one up here, and we're going to look at a really simple model of a typical person and the decision that person might make. So this concept, there's a lot of concepts that are tied up in this one. So I'm going to put my typical person over here. And I'm going to say my typical person, this person is walking around with $10. Okay? So just to give us an example of all the concepts that we've talked about so far. So he's got his $10, and we know that he can't use his $10 for everything everywhere. But we're going to use a simplified version to show what happens when he chooses one thing over another thing. Okay? So the two examples that we're going to look at, or the two goods that we're going to use, we're going to use coffee. He could buy coffee, and we're going to use gas. He could buy a gallon of gasoline, let's say. All right? So let's say coffee costs $2, right? And let's just, for simplicity, we'll say gas costs $2 as well. Okay? So just on a simple kind of scale, and then we're going to actually put it on a graph, which is what we do in economics. If this person decides to spend all of his money on coffee, how much coffee could he buy? If he spends all $10 on coffee, he could buy 5 cups of coffee, right? So with that, how much gasoline could he buy as well? And it's easy to see in this sort of setup. But this is what we talk about when we say there's an opportunity cost to everything. It doesn't just have to be money. In this scenario, we're looking at it with money. But if he decides to spend his $10 on 5 cups of coffee, how much money does he have left for gasoline? And obviously the answer there is 0, right? So his opportunity cost of buying 5 cups of coffee is a certain amount of gas, right? And so we can look at it the opposite way. Let's say he decides to just buy gasoline. He spends all of his money on gasoline, so he buys 5 gallons of gasoline, right? What's his opportunity cost? What does he give up by having to buy just 5 gallons of gasoline? He has to give up coffee because he can buy 0 cups of coffee now. Now we know that there are other options, and we'll show those other options in just a little bit. But when you decide to spend all of your money on one thing over something else, you can't buy that other thing, right? So if we were to look at it like this, if we were to say, okay, what's the opportunity cost of buying these 5 gallons of gasoline? It's what he had to give up. And what he gave up as a result of buying those 5 gallons of gas were the 5 cups of coffee that he could have purchased instead. All right? So now let's show that in kind of a graphic model form. Okay, so on our y-axis, we are going to put coffee, and on our x-axis, we're going to put gas. So we'll put gas down here, and we'll put coffee up here. And what we're going to do is we're just going to simply show what we showed up here in just kind of a more extensive form. All right, so we'll kind of move this up, zoom in on that, and we'll show what we're going to show there. All right. There we go. Okay, so now if we say that this person decides they have their $10, sorry, let me erase that. They have their $10 and they decide just to spend all their money on coffee. We just realized just before that they could get 5 cups of coffee. Well, how much gas can they buy as a result, right? So they spent $2 and they got 1. They spent another $2 and got 2. They spent another $2 and got 3. They spent another $2 and got 4. And they spent their last $2 and got 5, right? They got 5 cups of coffee, $2 a piece. I'll put that up here so we know. $2 a piece. Gas is $2 a piece. How much gas could they buy when they bought those 5 cups of coffee? I'm going to put a blue dot here for coffee. They bought 5 cups of coffee. And we'll put another dot for how many gallons of gas could they buy. Well, they could buy 0. I'll put it way down there. 0 gallons of gas, right? And then let's do what we did last time, right? So let's say, okay, no, we're not going to buy. He doesn't want to buy coffee. He wants to buy gallons of gasoline. So he buys his, first gallon of gas for $2, his second gallon of gas for another $2, his third gallon of gas for another $2, his fourth gallon of gas for another $2, and then he's out of money with his 5th gallon of gas. So down here, he spends $10 on 5 gallons of gas, and he's spent all of his money. How much coffee can he buy now? He can buy 0. I'll put the dot right next there. All right. So when he's making this decision, and just spending all of his money on one thing, he can't buy any of the other one, right? So his opportunity cost is all of the other good. So now let's look at a couple of examples where it's not just all or nothing, but it's somewhere, and we used this term before, but it's somewhere, and this is important, it's somewhere at the margin. It's somewhere in between. So let's say, okay, no. Let's say we're up here at this point, we'll call it A. A is he just has 5 cups of coffee, but he doesn't have any gas, and he says, I got to buy some gas. I need to be able to drive somewhere. And so let's say he wants to buy this first gallon of gas right here. So he wants to basically say, I don't need that extra cup of coffee. I don't need that 5th cup of coffee. I'm going to give up that 5th cup of coffee. in order to exchange that basically for a gallon of gas. So he gets his $2 back. He doesn't spend his $2 on a cup of coffee. Instead, he spends that $2 on a gallon of gas. So now what he has is he has his extra gallon of gas. He got a gallon of gas. So we're going to move this way. But what happened as a result of spending that $2 on a gallon of gas? The money couldn't just appear. He didn't get more than $10, but he had to give up some coffee, right? And so his new point is going to be this point right here. Right? And that point is 0.14, which would mean he has 1 gallon of gas and he has 4 cups of coffee, right? So if I were to say, what's the opportunity cost of that first gallon of gas? It would be 1 cup of coffee, right? Because he gave up 1 cup of coffee in order to get the first gallon of gas. Now let's do it again. Let's say he wants 2 gallons of gas. What's his opportunity cost for this second gallon? Well, he goes from 0.14 to this, which is 0.23. 23. So what did he give up, right? So he gained this gallon of gas, but in order to get that, he had to give something up. He had to give up another cup of coffee. Right? And we can do it again. Let's say he wants 3 gallons of gas. He wants even more gas. What does he have to do as a result? He has to give up a cup of coffee, right? So he gains a gallon of gas. He gives up a cup of coffee. And then let's say, oh, no, I need another gallon of gas, right? So he gains a gallon of gas. He gives up a cup of coffee. And then he could be at this point that we've talked about before, which is he gains this last gallon of gas, spends all of his money on gas, which means he has 0 cups of coffee. So if you look at this, what does he give up each time in order to gain a gallon? He gives up 1 cup each time he gains 1 gallon. And so what this line is going to represent, and I'll do it in a different color, a little bit thicker. This line right here is going to be our economic model. And this line shows us what's possible, right? It shows us the line of possibility. And I'm going to explain that in much more detail in the next video, but it's the line of what is possible. All right? What could he possibly purchase between these two goods with the money that he has? And we'll give it some more concrete detail in the next video.